Downtown Indianapolis, right next to Lucas Oil Stadium, is the space it is, the NFL Scouting Combine. Prospects will soon be on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. Today, more head coaches and general managers met with the media. Sports4CLE from Radio Row is joining you from the NFL Scouting Combine. Todd Monken, Browns head coach, met with the media today for the first time since his introductory press conference. One of the first things he was asked was, had he talked to Joel Bitonio, who pushed back the decision on whether he was going to retire until March 10th.
He came up to the office a few weeks ago, and we tried to talk him into it right then. But he was not in that position yet to say he wanted to come back. I'm for really good football players, and I'm for really good football players that are wired like Joel. There's not many wired like Joel. Like what he says, how he carries himself, how he prepares. It's unbelievable. He's a rare. How many years has he played? How many years was it that he's played now? 12 years. And the pounding he's taken and continued to play at such a high level.
With Bitonio delaying that decision, it's reasonable to assume he could be back, and that would help the Browns' offensive line quite a bit. Todd Monken was asked, what exactly is he looking for in his offensive line?
Well, it's like every position, right? Big, fast, physical, can move, can pull, can all those things you're going to look for ideally. But ultimately, like I've told them, is take the best players that will make it work. Now, it's a little bit different when you're talking about tackle, guard, and center and the differences in terms of their skill set. But I think you can win with power guards. I think you can win with lighter guards that can pull and get on the perimeter. I think you can win with tackles that, can play with power, and ones that you'd rather have in a wide zone scheme. To me, what you're looking for most of all is consistency, because you can coach around, if they're tough and they're consistent, then I think you can coach around that and scheme that. But if they're not physically tough consistently, and their day-to-day is inconsistent, very hard game day.
Todd, are you opposed to having multiple rookies in your starting offensive line?
No.
Doesn't faze you? Is it more of a challenge?
No. If they're the best players, that's where we're at right now. We understand that. And so now would it multiple depends on how many multiple.
Two would be.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, let's not go to 5. Multiple is a pretty broad stroke there.
More than one.
Again, they're really talented rookies, then no. We started a year ago, Roger Rosengarten at the Ravens, and he did fantastic. And so I've been around rookies that can play at a high level. And you've got to do things schematically to help them out. You certainly, especially at tackle.
Monken is putting the finishing touches on his coaching staff. Still needs to hire an assistant defensive line coach. It is loaded with guys that he's coached with before.
I said that at the press conference, that it's critically important. And when I talked about what really makes one side of the ball the other go, which is really good players. Okay, you need really good players. Okay, then you need really good staff, because you can't do it alone. The way to call a game is to have really good players, have really good staff that helps put the plan together, and then you can call the game freely. So having George come over, Travis, who is our run game coordinator there, Danny Breyer, Ian Colsty, Mike Bajakian, a quarterback coach I worked with at Tampa, Jeff Blasco I worked with here at 19, allows you to get up to speed quickly. And sure, the playbook for those other guys isn't the same as it was when we worked previously, but philosophically we're still connected.
One of the reasons Monken was hired as the Browns head coach is they have to rebuild the offense. Browns feel like he's the guy to do it. The question was asked, does Todd Monken have a good idea of what this Browns offense will look like in 2026?
First off, not really. But how much are you really going to change? Let's be real honest about it. Mike McDonald went from the Ravens to the Seahawks, and I'm sure they tweaked some things. And each year you're tweaking it. It's going to change. You're going to evolve. You're going to adapt. And we're the same way, but what we do is what we do. How we call it and how we scheme it up can't change. Or you're not committed to anything. You have to be what you believe in and how you attack people and how you prepare every week. So that can't change.
The Browns will be looking to rebuild part of the offense, at least through free agency. The question becomes, what is Todd Monken's pitch to trying to get free agents to sign with the Browns?
Well, usually free agents take the most money. So that's what you have to do, is have money to spend. Let's be real honest there. I mean, then the rest comes into play. It's just like NIL anymore. Everything else is important, just not as important, right? When money's involved, relationships are important. Ability to win is important. You name it. Like in college, it's your academics, right? Your degree, close to home, and that's still all part of it. Your family, but ultimately, it's how much money they're going to get paid, and where do they fit, and then the relationship piece of it. So, and then ultimately, you want to get players who are still playing at a high level. I mean, certainly you want to be certainly smart in terms of where you spend the money, but we all know in free agency, if you want a good player, they've proven it on NFL tape, you're going to have to spend. And that's just the way it is, and at times overspend.
As you might expect, plenty of questions for Todd Monken about the quarterback position, including, do you need to have QB1 named by the beginning of training camp?
You would hope that that's the case. You would hope that by the time you get to training camp that the reps that you're giving to a quarterback is for your starter. Whether we get to that place, I don't know. That'll be determined in the offseason as part of it. It's just another part of the piece.
I haven't heard you use the phrase open competition yet at that position. Is there open competition?
Sure. I think it's an open competition. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be an open competition. And I don't mean that saying it harshly, but I don't think there's enough on film over the last couple of years, one way or the other, to say, boy, we have a starter quarterback yet, whether internally or externally. That we're always trying to upgrade every position. That's not the only position. I know it's the position everybody wants to talk about, and I get it. I get it. I'm excited about Shedeur. I'm excited about Deshaun and Dylan. I'm excited about the prospects, not only in free agency, but also in the draft. And we'll see where it all falls. I mean, ultimately, you've got to do whatever you need to do, especially at that position, to put yourself in a position to score points.
The new head coach was asked what he has seen from Shedeur Sanders during his rookie season that he has to work with.
I think what you see is elite playmaking ability. That's in him. You've seen it. We've seen it. You saw it in college. You saw it on tape last year. Sure, there's a ways to go, but what rookie isn't? I mean, what first-year player doesn't have a long way to go? So I'm excited to get started with him and all of our quarterbacks and all of our players.
You have mentioned that you like to have a dual-threat quarterback or a mobile quarterback. Does Shedeur Sanders have the kind of mobility that you're looking for to do the job the way that you like to see it done?
I think all three of the quarterbacks have mobility. I think you see that on tape. Shedeur surprised me a little bit in terms of his, it's mobile might be, but he's got a knack. He's got a feel. Like he does in playmaking, he has a real sense in the pocket when it starts to collapse and moving around the pocket. And he made more plays or got himself out of trouble than I would have guessed, than I would have thought even coming out. Which was nice to see. As Deshaun has throughout his career, and Dylan has.
Deshaun Watson is another quarterback that's still under contract, coming off 2 Achilles injuries and a shoulder injury the year before the 2 Achilles. Does Todd Monken feel he can still be elite, being Deshaun Watson?
Any time that you have a player that at one time has exhibited the skill set at an elite level, I think you're always going to give them the benefit of the doubt that somehow we might be able to get that out of them again. And I think that's how you should look at every player. I've said that. You guys have heard me say it. I'm going to let it play out. I think it'd be completely unfair, just like it would be in any classroom setting, be it a history exam, and all the students walk in, and before they're actually given the exam, you give them a grade. Well, how would you give them a grade? Based on male, female, race, how they look, how they're dressed? I think that's unfair. Now, you're going to have some preconceived notions, obviously, because we have prior evidence, but I don't decide who plays. The players decide who plays. I've never decided who plays.
Most draft experts believe Ty Simpson will be QB2 in this draft, drafted somewhere mid to late, first round, possibly in the second round. Todd Monken is a guy who has known Ty Simpson for a number of years.
I like Ty. I liked Ty when he was coming out. When I first got to Georgia, they hadn't offered him, and I went up there and talked to his dad. In fact, his dad, Jason, is a Southern Miss alum, and I was head coach at Southern Miss. So got to know them really well. Really fond of Ty. Obviously, really good football player. Fired up for him, because in today's day and age, for him to stay as long as he did at Alabama and then get a chance to be the starting quarterback is pretty cool. I mean, that is really cool for him to live out his dream at the school he chose, whatever it was 3 or 4 years ago. I've lost track how many years it's been. What has it been, 3 years? Ty? 3 years, so.
Relative to his coaching staff, Todd Monken was asked about hiring Mike Rudenberg as the defensive coordinator, a guy who has never been an NFL defensive coordinator before.
Well, first of all, he came highly recommended by people that I respect in the profession. That was first and foremost. We were looking for somebody that had been a part of the same system or scheme, 4-down attack style defense. And so we started with that, because you're going to start people that were a part of that, coaches that were a part of that scheme, and see if they fit what we're looking for in terms of leading the men in that room on that side of the ball. Or you interview others that aren't really part of that scheme, but you feel like are the right guys in front of the players and our staff, but would learn that style. And we found a number of candidates we thought fit that. And when he interviewed, his energy, his juice, his vision for not only what we had from a player's standpoint, but what they'd done in the past and how he felt like he could take another step forward. And it just popped.
One of the top picks in this draft figures to be Arvell Reese. Cleveland native, he's from Glenville High School, went to Ohio State. He was asked about the things that would make him. What would a team be getting if they took him in the top 5 of this draft?
I think I'm different from a lot of guys with, I think it's my mindset and the violence I play with. Yes, sir. I think I'm comfortable with myself, and I know myself. I know who I am, and I know I'm a violent player, and I'm a dog, 100%. It has hit me how far I came, and I wouldn't say I seen it coming, but I just trusted the process that Ohio State had for me and just stayed the course, put my head down and worked, and this is the outcome, so yeah.
You're not the first Glenville Tar-Blooder to be in this position. Have you gotten any advice from guys who've already done this before, and what have they told you if so?
Just talking to him from time to time. If I was to run into him, I talk to Cardale Jones a lot. There's never nothing where they trying to push nothing on me or nothing like that, just talking, regular conversation like we just know each other. Yes, sir.
What does it mean to be part of that Glenville to the NFL pipeline?
It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me because I looked up to a bunch of those guys growing up. I'm from the Glenville area. I played for them. I started playing for them when I was 5 until like 13, so it means a lot to me. I used to be up at the field watching those guys play, seeing certain guys and just wanting to be like them.
Hey, Arvell, what about Ted Ginn? What does he meant just to use?
Senior.
Ted Ginn Senior, yes, sir.
Ted Ginn Senior means a lot to me. He, in my eyes, in my opinion, he changed the trajectory of my life. When I transferred back to Glenville, he was the biggest reason, and he helped me a lot. He mentored me. He put me in position. He put me on platforms to be seen, and he just guided me a lot. He changed the trajectory of my life for sure.
Always love it when Cleveland kids are set up to succeed. We'll continue to follow Arvell Reese in this draft. We're going to take a quick timeout. Plenty of Browns coverage ahead from the NFL Scouting Combine on Radio Row. Jared Mueller from Dogs by Nature due up, as is Tony Grossi from the Land on Demand, and one of the best draft analysts around, Dane Grudler, will join us for a couple of segments later. It's all straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little flag in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you.
Sports4CLE continues from the NFL Scouting Combine in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. We're on Radio Row, and we are pleased to be joined by Jared Mueller, who's with Dogs by Nature. Jared, we listened to Todd Monken. Just your takeaways from his first media gathering after the introductory press conference.
You know, I think it was really interesting to hear him and the difference between him and Kevin Stefanski. I think Monken really made it clear what he values, which I think is going to be really fun, is he values people. He values, what do I know about you? Who do I know that you know? And all the traits and all the other stuff that we're going to see out on Lucas Oil Field and all that, that's kind of secondary for him. So I thought it was really refreshing to kind of understand him a little bit better. And obviously fans are going to love there's a few curse words there, and he doesn't want to talk about himself and, you know, all of those kind of things. So there's a lot of, it was just different. I'm not sure he gave us a ton more than Kevin Stefanski did, but I think it was just a different presentation.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, you know. He's like, I'm a football coach. You know, that came out of his mouth a couple of times when people were asking questions. The other thing that struck me is he seems to genuinely be intrigued by the potential of Shedeur Sanders. That's not. I don't think that's a put on. I don't think that's a we'll see. I think he's genuinely intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps that we have the report from the Baltimore days that they were interested in drafting him. I think it helps kind of to back up that this is not just for show or because he's interesting or any of those kind of things. He likes a playmaker. He wants someone who's going to make plays. You know, he talked about Shedeur's not merely that athletic per se, but he has escapability, right? And so that dynamic stuff is going to be really important for Todd Monken.
The other thing, he's open to the possibility of Deshaun Watson. He thinks, you know, like any football coach, if there's elite in there, I can get it out.
He does, and he talked about, like, we have proof in the pudding. So how do we get that out of him? And I think, you know, for fans and media, it's been easy to kind of say Deshaun Watson, kind of old news. But for Todd Monken, he's got one shot at this, right? And these are people on his roster right now. He's going to give them every chance to be successful, no matter what the noise is.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. When you look at this offense, what do you think? The one thing we know, he likes to find matchups and exploit them, the old players over plays. What do you think? What do you expect to see from a Todd Monken offense?
I think you're going to see a lot of creativity. He's talked a lot about, I want to see my players. I want to know who I have. And so, and he said today, it starts with offensive line. So Browns fans, you're going to love to hear that, right? It starts with the offensive line. And we really don't know who is going to be on this offensive line. So I think it's going to really start there. You're going to see a little bit more power. You're going to keep the wide zone. I think if Joel Bitonio returns, maybe you see a little bit more of that. But I think you're going to really start to see that everything goes around the run game and the offensive line, but you're going to see a lot of throwing the ball, right? He's in that air raid system, those kind of things. So you're going to see a little bit of both. So spread it out, run the ball, get those tight formations, throw the ball to really keep the defenses off balance.
So the other thing that he talked about, and we mentioned, he values people, he values relationships. As I'm listening to him say that, they're going to try to find a way to sign Tyler Linderbaum. Is what if he's the type of guy that he feels can set the tone in the offensive line room, they will overpay for a center.
They absolutely will. I have a rumors thing that goes out every year on day one, just connecting with everybody, and there are basically at least 4 teams that are ready to overpay him, including the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns are in there, and they're all connected to him, right? So John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, the Ravens, the Browns. Those are the 4 teams we know, at least up front, are going to be willing to overpay him, and that center position continues to become more and more important, especially when you don't have a veteran quarterback that you're connected to. If he brings in Tyler Huntley, that changes slightly.
Yeah, that would be another guy, because that's a guy he has had success with, is mobile like he likes. And when he filled in for Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley looked pretty good.
He's completed a lot of his passes, which is really surprising when you look at some of the data. And Shedeur Sanders loved his time with Tyler Huntley. And I think even for people who like Shedeur Sanders, next year's not the only year, right? We're going into year 2 for him. If Tyler Huntley can help that, but help Todd Monken win, set everything on the table, maybe along with Tyler Linderbaum, all of a sudden you have an offense that knows what it's doing and has a purpose.
All right, if we look at the draft, you know, that's everybody's here at the Combine leading up to the draft. 6-24, Browns first-round picks. How do you think they play out? What players, positions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think right now it's a really interesting draft for the Browns in that they see kind of picks 10 through 20 are about the same value. and I'm not sure the fit for them at 6 is going to be right. And so at this point in time, it seems like moving down makes a lot of sense. Spencer Fano is a really, really good offensive tackle, but is he worth that number 6 pick compared to what you could get to maybe move down even twice into 16, 17 range? But there are some really good offensive tackles depending on how you kind of grade those out. The wide receiver room, everybody's got a little bit of questions. Carnell Tate, what does Jeremiah Smith mean to that, right? Tyson, do you want to come play with his brother who plays for the Cavs but has all those injury histories? There's a lot of talent here. There's just a lot of questions.
Yeah, is there one of those guys that you think fits best for the Browns?
I think Spencer Fano makes the most sense, to be honest. I think for Todd Monken, you want someone you can depend on. And so Spencer Fano may not be Joe Thomas, but he's going to make 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. He is going to lock down the left tackle position, and he's able to do a little bit of everything. And so if they're drafting at 6, I don't know if upside is as important as certainty at that time.
Wide receivers, is there one that you think either at 6 or at 24 that makes sense? Or do you think they're going to go offensive lineman, potentially?
I don't think they're going to go offensive lineman. I think that 2 rookies starting, especially if you're going tackle, that's just too much to ask. There's too much development, coaching, teaching that has to happen at that point in time. There are a lot of really interesting wide receivers, either at 6 and 24. Denzel Boston is one, I would say. Casey Concepcion, he's not the big guy, he's not the separator in that way, but he is quick, he is a route runner. I really like him out of Texas A&M. Then obviously Carnell Tate up front. He's just someone who what you're getting out of him. Obviously, there's some Buckeye bias with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the free agency. When you hear the national folks talking, not a deep class, not a lot of elite talent, which that's fine. I don't think the Browns are going to spend more than one elite guy, and that might be Linderbaum potentially. Is there a level that they can get serviceable offensive linemen that can help them rebuild this line?
I think it'd be really tough. I think Tevin Jenkins is probably getting re-signed, makes the most sense out of the group. The other thing that's I'll have an article up tomorrow is 5 teams need to spend about $50 million this season to meet kind of a CBA rule. No one likes all the little gritty details. There's going to be a lot of overspending in free agency on a really bad class. And so while the Browns want to get better, there's going to be an age kind of cap to that. And I think it's 28. It might be 27, because why spend money now on a player that might help win a extra game if there's 2 or 3 of those? So there's going to be an age cap, and it's just really going to be an overspending kind of market.
The other thing that Andrew Berry was asked, will you have enough cap space? And he just said yes.
There's just nothing that's ever going to really stop that, and that goes to Jimmy Haslam. Like, there's lots of things to say bad about Jimmy Haslam, but the reality is the way he spends cash over cap has allowed them to be really flexible. We saw last year they didn't spend a lot of money, kind of helping the cap a little bit for the future, but Jimmy Haslam putting money up front allows them to borrow money on the future.
And he's willing to spend without question. You can say a lot of things, but never say he hasn't spent on this team.
And in small market, all that stuff. Cleveland has 2 owners that are going to spend the money, and Jimmy Haslam's one of them. And Jerry Jones often talks about we all have to spend the same amount of money, and he's just inaccurate about that. It's how you spend the money that decides how much money you spend. It's actually why those 5 teams have to spend $50 million in cash, because they haven't been spending the cash; they've been spending the cap. And so Jimmy Haslam, we never have to worry about that. He's in the 106%, 105%, because he is spending future money cheaper now than it is later.
Jared Mueller and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will continue talking Browns. You're watching Sports4CLE live from Radio Row at the NFL Scouting Combine. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns at the NFL Scouting Combine. In Indianapolis, Indiana tomorrow, some of the prospects will start going through the drills over at Lucas Oil Stadium, which is adjacent to the convention center where we are headquartered on Radio Row, along with Jared Mueller. I'm Dave Bacon. Jared, it's become more and more prevalent for NFL teams to make trades. 6-7 years ago, they didn't make any, and now it seems like trades are likely, and there's a trend where the expectation is there will be more of them. Andrew Berry has not met a trade he doesn't like. Are there any trades to be made for the Browns, do you think?
Yeah, so one of the things about Andrew Berry is you can always look at what he tried to do, and he's going to try to do it again, right? He's kind of dog with the bone a little bit. And so last trade deadline, Chris Olave was a player that he looked at. What I'm told is that conversation has continued. Cesar Ruiz with the Saints, Marvin Harrison Jr. to bring another Buckeye in. The reality is we have 10 new head coaches this year, and so anytime you have that kind of turnover, you're going to see a lot of trades because there are players that don't fit. And so there have been a lot of trade conversations. What I've been told is Andrew Berry is very, very specific this year. He's not just casting a wide net. He's casting a wide net, but it's very specific, looking at positions that he doesn't believe he's going to fill in other areas. Interior offensive line has been one of those, wide receiver has been the other.
Oh, that's kind of intriguing. And you mentioned Jerry Jeudy was a guy he tried to trade for the trade deadline before, didn't get, and then went back and got him the following year.
He's done that with so many players. Jadeveon Clowney, Tack McKinley. I mean, it's just over and over again. You just see Andrew Berry, if he likes somebody, he likes them, right? And so it's just something to keep an eye on. If you hear a rumor, even somebody this free agency that maybe they don't sign, you might find out that they're going to be looking to trade or sign him in their second contract.
Relative to the quarterback position, again, Todd Monken didn't make any grand statements about, well, we're going to bring one in. We'll always look to upgrade every position. I still kind of believe they're going to bring in another quarterback. I don't know if it'll be a veteran or a reasonably early draft, but I think they're bringing in a quarterback. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a really interesting draft for that, in that most of the people in the NFL don't like the quarterback draft, right? I think media and fans are down on it. I think the NFL is actually more down on it. And so I think, a team like the Los Angeles Rams is really high on Ty Simpson. You might see them move up for him, so he's not even going to be available there at 24. I think the name to watch, Drew Aller, right? He's someone you know very well.
Oh, yeah.
I know Browns fans know very well, thinking he would come out last year. He's a quarterback that many people think have the skill set, has the mindset, and just was put in a really bad position at Penn State. I think the real question for Andrew Berry and Todd Monken is, you got one shot at this.
Yeah.
Right? Do you spend number 24, a second-round pick? Is that your quarterback? Are you going to get desperate, or are you going to be a little pickier? And that's where you can see those trade downs and some of that kind of stuff, where they want to really make sure their one time to really spend a resource and asset on a quarterback is the right one, not just a quarterback.
So relative to a veteran, you don't necessarily see them trying to bring somebody in, because in order to do that, you almost have to bring somebody in that you're going to have start.
Yeah, I think the only one that really does make sense would be someone like Tyler Huntley. He's someone that they have some experience with. Otherwise, there's just not a lot of quarterbacks out there. People will talk about Geno Smith. He's better than kind of what his reputation is currently. I think he'd be a fine backstop depending on what you're kind of getting for him. But otherwise, I don't think you've got a meaningful quarterback coming in.
Defense. Does it take a step back with Jim Schwartz leaving?
This may sound like sacrilege, right? Jim Schwartz wasn't that unique in how he played man coverage, right? And so we saw in the Houston Texans playoff game, Bobby Slowick was able to use motion and movement and all of that kind of stuff to kind of set up the Browns defense. I think you're going to see a step back early in the season. I think you're going to see a step forward in some of those areas, including, and this is where Ronnie Hickman's restricted free agency is really interesting, I'm not sure he's a great fit for maybe that single high safety role that they might want to do under the new defensive coordinator.
It's kind of interesting. They brought in Dom Capers, which I thought that is a great move, because you have a first-time coordinator. Don Capers, it goes back to some legendary defenses.
He does, and I think that's where it's really interesting. You have the Capers now on defense. You have Todd Monken on offense. You do have some veterans, even though you have these first-time coordinators. I think it's just going to be really helpful to have smart people in the room who know what they're doing, their experience. It's kind of rote knowledge for both of them.
When you look at, obviously, trying to rebuild the offense in a season, do they have enough resources to do that?
I think it's a really good question. I think they have enough resources. They just may not have the quarterback, right? And so I think even if you just look at the first round, offensive tackle, wide receiver, all of a sudden, Jerry Jeudy has a number 2, Harold Fannin, tight end, Quinshon Judkins, he said Andrew Berry told us he's coming back. And then everything else is a little cheaper, right? It looks like right tackle is going to be DeJuan Jones starting out. I think it's a pretty easy way to start to become really good. It just depends on what you're doing at that quarterback position to kind of set all of that up, and how quickly can the rookies be ready.
Is it realistic to expect them to improve? 3-4 wins, I guess, is a bottom line question. You know, they had 5.
Yeah.
3-4, and then you're kind of on the fringe. If something goes your way and you're right in the playoff mix.
You know, honestly, I think so. I think it's realistic to say that. You know, last year they should have won in London. I was there. It was a beautiful game. They should have won in London. They should have won in week 1. And should have is an overly used term, but the reality is they should have won both of those games, and you're already talking about 2 games. And now you have an offensive coordinator. You're investing on that side of the line. I think it's easy to look at 2 or 3 wins, and then their schedule looks like it's going to line up pretty well.
Yeah, the schedule, and again, who knows? We always do the schedule game, and then by the time you finish, it's like, wow, they're playing a lot better than we thought. But the one thing that I think teams that go from worst to first usually have is there's something that is elite. Mm-hmm. And I think the Browns' defense, it's, it's borderline elite. I don't know that it's going to be top 5 again, but I think it's going to be top 3rd, top 10.
Absolutely, and we have to be honest about the AFC North. It's in a transition period, and I'm not sure there's a really good team in that group. You're potentially bringing Aaron Rodgers back, Lamar Jackson, new offense. They've got to restructure his contract, figure all that out. And then Cincinnati, until they show me that they can actually have a full team, I'm not sure I'm going to believe anything.
Well, and again, Trey Hendrickson, is he going to be there? Can they keep Joe Burrow healthy for an entire season? Those are real questions for the Bengals.
They really are, and so I think it's so easy to think Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, oh my goodness, the AFC North. It was historic a couple years ago. It's not historic anymore. It's mediocre at best.
So what are you paying attention to relative to the Browns leading into free agency? What is your expectation, and what would, if this happens, it would kind of signal this?
I think it's 2 things. It's Joel Bitonio. I think he's a really a big sign of kind of what the direction is going to look like and what he believes is going to happen. And I think then it's a trade, right? So we know when free agency opens, but trades can be kind of agreed upon and reported. I think the trade will really set up what the draft's going to look like. And so is that an interior offensive lineman? Joel Bitonio returns, and all of a sudden it looks like a competitive team before we get to free agency, just a little bit better. I think that's really a sign of whether or not they think they can win the AFC North, a playoff position, or do they really just see this year as maybe hopeful, go from there, and maybe that's not a Tyler Lindenbaum, maybe that's not where we're going to spend our money kind of thing.
Jared Mueller, is always great stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely, brother.
Jared Mueller, make sure to check him out. Dogs by Nature, always great and insightful Browns coverage. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Tony Grossi will join us. We're from Radio Row at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, Indiana. Sports4CLE will be right back.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little flag in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio Lottery. Put a little flag in your day. Put a little flag in your day.
Sports4CLE continues live from Radio Row in Indianapolis, Indiana, site of the NFL Scouting Combine. We're pleased to be joined by longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi. You can find him in the Land on Demand. Make sure you check it out. Tony, the Combine, we heard from Andrew Berry yesterday. It sure seems like they're open to a lot of different ways to rebuild the offense.
Yeah, I think it starts up front. I mean, there's no secret the Browns have a major reclamation project on the offensive line, and as Andrew Berry said yesterday, you can't do it all in free agency, you can't do it all in the draft or in trade. You probably got to do all of the above to fill those spots. So I think that's their number one priority in this offseason.
Joel Bitonio pushes back the decision date. I got to believe that's at least a sign that he's thinking about
there's
coming
a chance.
back.
Yeah, there's a chance. I mean, I think Joel finished this year healthier than he did in the last 2 years. That's a positive. Does he want to go through breaking in another coach and another long training camp? But there's if you can still play and you're not positively sure you're done, give it another year. But that's his call. He would do the Browns a big favor by coming back.
Yeah, I mean his play was pretty good. I mean it was probably the best on that line.
Yeah, he's probably as good of a guard as you're willing to invest in free agency. So you got your own. Why not try him first? So I think the fact that void date was moved to March 10th is a positive sign that he could return.
And that would help. That'd be 4 offensive linemen starters that you would need. The other thing, and I'm curious your take because you've been around this so long, Tyler Linderbaum is a guy that's intriguing. They're going to have to pay him pretty significantly if they want him. Monken knows him. More importantly, George Warhop knows him. Is there maybe a little bit more value to the Browns who are looking to rebuild that if those guys say, this is a guy that can kind of set the tone for that group?
Yeah, he's going to be coveted. There's going to be competition, and that just raises the price. I mean, Baltimore, Eric DeCosta, the GM of Baltimore, made it clear that they want him back. Now, that means you're going to have to overpay to get him away. John Harbaugh in New York, there's also a link there with the Giants. So I think Andrew has one major acquisition in free agency, big ticket item. Do you devote that to the center, or do you go fishing for an offensive tackle and devote the money that way? That's kind of the question there, because Linderbaum's going to be in excess of $20 million a year, which for the best center in football is okay, but you got so many other needs, and you got to spread that money around. So I would say they'll kick those tires and see what the number is, but I think it's a long shot.
What did you make of Andrew Berry? And he's been pretty consistently non-committal at the quarterback, as he probably should be. It truly sounds like they're just looking to see, is there an option that we think we can win more games with?
I think they're content with the quarterbacks they have for this year. I mean, you can make the case with a new coach, Todd Monken, coming in. You got to give Shedeur Sanders more of a runway to prove whether he's the long-term guy or not. 7.5 games isn't enough. It's enough to merit another look. You're paying Deshaun Watson $46 million. If he's finally healthy, why wouldn't you put him in that competition? And the way Andrew Berry spoke about Dylan Gabriel yesterday, he says he's got a bright future in the league. He had more positive praise for Gabriel of any of his 3 quarterbacks. So I don't see them bringing in a guy who would be certifiably number 1 ahead of those guys. And I don't think they want to get into another 4-man competition. So I do think they'll add a quarterback, but it's gonna bring yawns to the Cleveland fan base if they do.
All right, this will be in a couple of days. We'll get to look at the wide receivers and doing the drills and the tackles as well. 6-24. Do you think is it a lineman? Is it a wide receiver? Do you have what's your sense there?
Those are the 2 options, and then trade in between. I think it's there's a good case to be made. The stars may line up. You move a couple spots down and pick up assets for next year. Not even this year, but next year. And then still get the guy you think you like ahead of those top 2 linemen. I think that's possible. But I would think, yes, offensive tackle and receiver, one way or the other in those first 2 picks.
Is there, I'm sure you've looked at the names, is there one that you prefer for the Browns at each position?
I'm no expert on offensive line.
I know. Well, we've been struggling there for a couple of years.
I'm not the only one in town who's not an expert. Maui Noah is intriguing, the Miami guy. A lot depends. I believe people will get a kick out of this, but his arm measurement, which is coming up tomorrow, I think the linemen come in to get measured, or Friday. A lot of people think he's going to be a guard, but if his arm measurement is, the number is 33 inches. If it's 33 or above, you can really justify starting him at least at tackle. Otherwise, he might be the best guard in the draft. And I don't think the Browns would take a guard that high. Spencer Fano, Utah, he's another guy. So the one guy I like in the first round is the receiver from Washington, Denzel Boston, who the key thing to him to watch is the 40 time. If he runs 4.5 or less, the Browns aren't going to get him at 24. If he stumbles along and does a 4.54, that might benefit the Browns if they still like him. I don't even know if they like him. I like him. Yeah. I love his size and what I've seen of him. So those are some of the names that I think are going to be in the conversation.
What kind of trades do you think? Andrew Berry always seems to be involved in some of them, and we've heard from many of the national experts think this will be a time where there are more trades even this offseason. I've heard a number of guys say that. Yeah. Who could you see Andrew Berry trying to acquire in a trade? And not specific names, positions.
Well, I think his strike zone is trading for receivers, right? He's done pretty well at that. I think he will sniff around at that. One name I'm hearing is DJ Moore of Chicago is going to be offered, around the league. So, he kind of fits the profile. 29, he's right on the border of being, at his peak or over the hill. He's got a few more years in him before he goes downhill. So he's one name I'm looking at. I think that trading for offensive lineman is very possible. I don't have any names that to give you there, but I think again he's got to fill those 4 or 5 spots with every method possible. So I think if there are trades, you might see a offensive lineman and a wide receiver.
And he mentioned yesterday, Andrew Berry did, the way the Bears rebuilt their offensive line. They needed 4 of them, and they did it a number of different ways. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think that tells you he's looking to kind of overhaul that.
Because then you have a blend of youth and experience. You can't, people want to draft 2 offensive tackles in the first round. It's a little risky to do that, I mean, think of your quarterback. You got 2 guys at the key positions learning the game on the fly at the pro level. So it's a little risky. I could see them taking another tackle in the 3rd or 4th round.
Right.
But I doubt that they'll take 2 in the first round.
Well, I mean, the hit rate on him is a question mark. I mean, Jedrick Wills.
Well, he was a competent starter for a few years, but you need better than if you're taking him in top 10. You need a star.
And if you're taking 2 of them in the first round. Yeah. So that's kind of the hit rate, even in first-round picks, is not really high.
No. I mean, so I agree with you. I think a blend of veteran and they still got some guys. DeJuan Jones, you can't give up on him. You just can't depend right from the start on him. Zach Zinter is entering his 3rd year. He's a Michigan guard. He should be ready to play and start. So I wouldn't forget about those guys.
Yeah, Zinter's the one that I loved the pick when they made it. It was coming off the broken leg, and he hadn't been able to get on the field and stay on the field.
Well, he's been playing behind 2 Pro Bowl guards. And
that's fair.
So he did fill in the last game at center, emergency center. I didn't see any penalty flags flying the rest of that game. So I think he ended on a good note. So I think he's a very important guy to watch this year. Don't count him out.
All right, let's talk a little bit about defense. I'm one of those guys that I thought Jim Schwartz should have got the head coaching job. I don't have a problem with Todd Monken. Once the more I see Monken, the more I'm like, okay, I get this. I understand it. Mike Rudenberg, first time as a defense coordinator. They're bringing in Dom Capers, which I think is smart. The nature of a different defensive coordinator, I think there's going to be some changes.
Well, there's a risk there, but the more I hear about Rudenberg, the more I can see why he got the job. I think he's experienced in different phases of the Schwartz defense. He just hasn't been with Schwartz like some of the candidates, but I could see him adapting if that's the best thing to do. Play a lot of man coverage, play that wide zone, wide 9 up front. I think he can do that. I think it was a decent choice from everything. Everyone starts somewhere, I mean, if you're going to find the next great defensive coordinator, he's going to be a guy that you got to take a risk on.
And we've shown a couple of mic'd up segments from his Falcons days. He is high energy.
He's got the juice, as they say. So I think he'll be all right.
What did you think of Capers? I thought that was a smart move. That's a guy that's a long time, really good defensive
Ohio
coordinator.
guy.
Yeah,
been a head coach twice. Dom has made a second career out of being a senior defensive assistant.
It's good work if you can get it.
I think this is his sixth team in that role. So he's like a defensive senior mind for hire. So it can't hurt. It'll help Rutenberg, and I guess they did cross paths in Jacksonville. Rutenberg was a position coach at the time, but there's some familiarity there.
Tony Grossi, as always, appreciate you taking some time. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, David.
Tony Grossi, make sure you check him out. The Land on Demand, longtime Browns beat reporter, always some of the best Browns coverage that you're going to find. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will have more of Sports for CLE live from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, Indiana. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Sports for CLE continues from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we are pleased to be joined by Dane Brugler, author of The Beast, The Athletic, The Draft Guide. Comprehensive, has been there for a number of years. Dane, thanks so much for taking some time with us. I know you're an Ohio guy, so you know Browns have 6 and 24.
Yeah.
What kind of players? Are there 6 impact players in this draft?
It's a unique draft because I think it just depends on your needs and your roster, where you're at. Not everyone's going to need a safety like Caleb Downs, or not everyone's going to need a pass rusher like David Bailey. And how do you look at Bailey versus Ruben Bain versus a guy like Arvell Reese? So I think it just depends. I don't think this is a draft where there's 6 no-brainer blue-chip guys where it's like, it doesn't matter what our roster looks like. We need to draft that guy. But it's still, you want the higher draft pick because you're going to come away with a higher player on your board. And, there's a chance for this team to get better, whether that's, you think they're going to lean offense? I think that's a fair assumption. Now, I think the better question is, okay, you go offensive line, you go wide receiver. And I think there's a case to be made either way.
Let's dive into those 2 position groups. I know you've studied them extensively. Who do you like wide receivers at the top?
Let's start with Carnell Tate from Ohio State. I give him a lot of credit. The jump he took between last year and this year was pretty big, just in terms of being more technically proficient with his route running, his ability to set up coverage, snap off routes. But at the same time, he can win vertically, and he's a ball winner. So I'm eager to see what he runs here, because you don't watch him and say, oh wow, that's a burner, or he's not a sprinter. But his strides are so long, he eats up grass so quickly that before you know it, he's over top coverages and giving his quarterback a target downfield. Wins in contested situations. So I think there's a lot of reasons to point to him and say, all right, that's who's going to make this Browns team better. That's what's going to give them what they're missing on the perimeter. They just don't have weapons on the outside that teams are going to respect. And so adding a player like Tate, I think, changes the math a little bit.
Is there any concern at all with Tate specifically? Because Jeremiah Smith plays on the other side, and he'd be number 1 pick in the last couple of drafts, probably. Is that a concern?
No, I mean, you can't hold it against him that he happened to be playing with a generational type of wide receiver. Now, at the same time, I think it's fair to talk about that because the gravitational pull that Jeremiah Smith gets from coverage gives Tate some one-on-one matchups and some more favorable spots to go make plays. But I don't know. I mean, I can turn on the tape and Wisconsin, or and he's making plays over double coverage, and he's still doing his thing regardless of what else is happening around him. So. I don't know. Ohio State, they just know how to crank those guys out.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Does that really factor into it? That's Brian Hartline's.
Sure.
That's his calling card that got him the gig at Southern Florida.
Whether or not it should, I think it does. I mean, consciously or subconsciously, it's something that from the fan base and also for the front office, we're getting an Ohio State receiver that gives you a little bit of a sense of, okay, we're getting a pro. We're getting a guy that's going to translate well and going to help us be a better football team.
After him, it's typically Tyson and Lemon. Is that how you have it as well?
So I reported last night that Tyson won't be here at the Combine. Well, he'll be here, but he's not working out because of the hamstring. And so how does that affect him in the order of these receivers? And he's different than Mekhi Lemon. Mekhi Lemon, what he gives you is a little bit different. So it depends what you're looking for. Lemon is he's so tough through contact. He's not a slot-only player, but he's best in the slot, where let him manipulate the middle of the field. He's so efficient going from catcher to runner, so he can be a yak player. There's just a lot to like about the football player, regardless of what he weighs in at, regardless of what he runs here. He's a good football player. So Mekhi Lemon, I think, he's right there.
When I saw he's 5'11", he plays a lot. That surprised me. I think he plays bigger. Is that fair?
Yes, and I think that it's very similar to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the way that he gets open, the way that he dominates the catch point, and the way that he can work after the catch. That's what you like about Mekhi Lemon, even if it's not the prototypical size and speed for what you typically want a top 15 receiver.
After that, say they don't go at 6. Say they go 24 second round. Who are some guys in that range that make sense that you like, that you think are players?
Well, I mean, and it depends on what kind of receiver they want, right? If they want that true X, Denzel Boston from Washington, that 6'3.5", 215-pound body, catches the ball well, not going to create a ton of separation, but he's a commanding presence on the outside, which they don't have right now, the Browns. If they are a little more open to a slot or a Z, then you're talking about Omar Cooper Jr., Indiana, KC Concepcion, A&M. Both of those players could be in the mix there at that point. So I think it presents this team, if they want to come away with a receiver in the first round, it presents this team and Andrew Berry and these head decision makers with a debate about, okay, do we take Tate at 6 and feel good about him being, plugging him in at the Z and we've got a playmaker moving forward, or do we feel better getting the tackle and then waiting to 24 and still feeling good about those players? I think there is a debate either way about which way to go.
All right, let's talk tackles. Who are some of them that would be at the top of your list there?
The top two guys, Spencer Fano and Francis Maui-Noah from Miami, they're right tackles. And so if you want more of that traditional left tackle skill set, Monroe Freeling from Georgia, more in that vein. But in Maui-Noah, he's interesting because some teams have him on the board as a guard because he could play tackle, but when you look at his strengths and the way he's built, you think, okay, starter right tackle or Pro Bowler guard. And so that's why some teams like him better inside. But I think that this is a tackle or a first round where we're going to see, 5-6 tackles come off the board. And so it's all about maybe how this team feels about the tackle depth. Where are you okay sitting on the edge of your seat, waiting for 24 to come around, hoping that one of those tackles is still there for you? It's risky, but I could see why they'd want to go in that direction.
Would that be a Freeling? Who would be down there at 24? He's probably moving up.
Yeah, I think Freeling's a top 20 pick myself. I think you're hoping more it's Blake Miller from Clemson, Aina Chor from Arizona State, the right tackle. Those guys, they're super talented. But again, there's a reason we're talking late first round, not early first round for them. So, but it just like I said, there is a debate either way, and I could really make a strong argument why they should go receiver tackle or tackle receiver.
Miller, that's actually a local kid from Strongsville area.
Sure.
What have you seen kind of developmentally from him?
Tough kid. I think he's missed one practice in 4 years, which says something about just the way he carries himself, the competitive toughness. He's a big guy. He's long, a good athlete. and he's wired the right way. And I think that's important, especially at that position where you want guys that are going to endure and make it through a grueling season. And that's Miller. I feel like he can do that, and he can do that at a high level. So I don't know, maybe it's the Cleveland toughness that's he took down there to Clemson, but he's an impressive player.
What about guards? So the Browns likely need multiple, 4 offensive linemen in this draft. What guards kind of in that second day range do you think?
Chase Besantis from Texas A&M. I know he's a Jersey kid who Ohio State wanted bad and ended up going to the Aggies and had a good career. He brings a level of toughness to that team, which you'd like to see. If they wait till more like the third round, Billy Schrouth from Notre Dame, I think would be a nice fit. He's a Wisconsin kid who, he's a Midwest guy. Needs to stay healthy. I think we missed 4 games each of the last 2 years. So just staying on the field and executing, he can do it. It's just obviously has to avoid the injury bug. But if I'm going to target a guard in the third round, that would be my guy, Schrouth from Notre Dame.
Are there any under-the-radar guys? And I'm going to ask you that overall, but under-the-radar offensive linemen?
Jalen Farmer from Kentucky, I think doesn't get enough love. Florida transfer who is really strong, moves pretty well, had a good week at the Senior Bowl. I think I grade him as a third-round player, so I don't know he's going to go that high, but I think he's a future starter. So Farmer's a player that if I had a need for a guard in this draft, I would try to come away with him.
We're going to take a quick timeout. One more segment with Dane Brugler, author of The Beast, draft analyst for The Athletic. You're watching Sports4CLE from the NFL Scouting Combine. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little flag in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio lottery. Put a little flag in your day. Put a little flag in your day.
We continue talking with Dane Brugler, author of The Beast Draft Guide, also the draft analyst for The Athletic from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Dane, let's talk a little bit about quarterbacks. Last year, Browns were thinking it was going to be a big quarterback class. Sellers doesn't come out. Klubnik doesn't have the year that you thought he would. Aller gets hurt. There are a number of guys that just didn't perform. Now we're hearing next year could be a great quarterback class.
Yeah.
Is that typical? The quarterback class is pretty thin after Mendoza here.
It is, and I think these things are cyclical. So we're due for a big one next year. Obviously, we didn't see Fernando Mendoza being a number one overall, like a no-brainer number one overall pick. Like I liked Fernando Mendoza. I thought it could be a first-round pick, but I'm not going to lie and say I thought he'd be the no-brainer at number one. So we'll see what the next year brings. But yeah, this year, if you need a quarterback, unless you're the Raiders, you are doing your extra homework to try and figure out if any of these guys could be the answer. And maybe Ty Simpson from Alabama could be that guy. Maybe Cole Payton from North Dakota State could develop eventually into that type of player. But there is definitely a risk involved with any quarterback, but especially the non-Mendoza quarterbacks in this class.
Is there a guy that you think that could put things together and have a decent NFL career?
I think Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier, both Alabama, LSU, I think both could be NFL starters in this league. Ty Simpson's tough just because he has 15 starts, and so there's a lot he has not seen yet. But he does a lot of quarterback. It's not like he's just bigger and faster and has a stronger arm than everybody else. You like him because he does quarterback things already. So navigating the pocket, processing the field. And even though he's a one-year starter, he came up with a quarterback education because his dad's a 20-year coach at the FCS level. So he grew up in that program and has a little more unique experience than your typical one-year starter at the college ranks. So I do think that Nussmeier, Simpson both have a path to becoming NFL starters. Can they become top 15, top 20 NFL starters, that's a little more tricky, and something that if a team is convinced that they can, they're going to go. But I'm not there yet.
So draft analysts always, like yourself, always talk about value in a draft. Where's the value in this draft, do you think?
It depends on position, right? I think that like wide receivers, there's going to be a lot of value late first into the second round. Corners, I think there's good value on day 2. Tight end, the value like at the fourth round, fifth round, I think there's really good value depending on the type of tight end that you want. So every position is going to have a different value, and some are lighter than others. This is the lightest quarterback and running back class that I can remember in terms of top 100 players. There's only 6 quarterbacks and running backs total, 3 each, in my top 100 right now, and that's really rare. So it's just light at those 2 positions, but once we get to day 3, that's where there's some running backs in the mix. So it really just depends on the position.
Who are some guys in this draft that you really like? And when I asked this a couple of years ago, you gave me Andrew Phillips, who ended up being a pretty good cornerback for the New York Giants.
Yeah, I'll give you another cornerback, Chris Johnson from San Diego State, who is just physical, the athleticism and the intelligence. He just has a really good feel for coverage, for what route concepts and what receivers are trying to do. And this year he did a better job taking the football away. And so I think Chris Johnson, he's ascending, one of those players that'll go probably day 2 somewhere, but end up being better than where he was drafted. Receiver, there's quite a few of those guys. Bryce Lance, Trey Lance's little brother's in this draft, who 6'4", 215, bigger guy, can win vertically. There's a lot of talent there. I think he's a borderline top 100 player. So, I think really at every position you could point to somebody that you feel like, hey, there's more here than what we've seen, and he could end up being a pretty good pro.
What about questions? What questions get answered here at the Combine?
It's more about context, filling in the gaps of what we're missing, whether it's the type of athlete that you are, whether it's some of the character, some of the medical stuff. It's more about those final finishing touches of the evaluation, because all the tape's been watched. There's no more tape to watch. So what the tape says, the on-field stuff, that's down in the evaluation. It's now more of the extra stuff that isn't going to necessarily make or break a player, but it could tweak a little bit with how you rank him compared to other players at his position. And every team looks at it a little bit differently. So it's a big week for me and my process as I gather information, but also obviously for teams and their homework, all the homework they do on each one of these players.
What position groups are deep? Where can you get like the elite talent in this draft?
I think that receiver and edge rusher, those are the 2 off the bat that just immediately come to mind. They were the most represented in my top 100, and I think they're very deep every round. First round, second round, third round, into the 4th round, it's very deep. Tight end, like I said, once you get to the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, I think it's deep in that area. That makes sense. Corner's a good group. Safety, if you need a safety, I think there's someone in every round that you can point to and say, okay, that'd be someone worth targeting. So if teams needing a safety in this class, I think this is a good group. I mentioned it's light at quarterback, light at running back. I think it's a little bit light at defensive tackle. Linebacker's good. And then the interior of the offensive line is okay. I think there's decent depth there.
It is sounds like it's kind of heavy near the top in defense then, is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think corner drops off once you get to day 3. So top 100 I think is good at corner, but edge rusher, there were 16 edge rushers that made my top 100, and there were 4 or 5 that I hated to leave out. So that'll keep going into round 4. But yeah, I think it's fair to say defense is. If you need defense in this draft, there's going to be plenty of guys you're going to be interested in.
Let me ask you about a Cleveland kid from Glenville High School, Arvell Reese, Glenville and Ohio State. What do you see with him?
Freaky guy, man. He's not only is he the way he moves, he's different, but the way he plays, the violence, the physicality, and what you love about him is he can kind of be what you want him to be. You want him to be an off-ball linebacker, he can do that. You want him to be an edge setter, he can do that. You want him to scream off the edge as a pass rusher, he can do that too. So it just depends on what you want him to do, and the way he stepped up this year as basically a first-year starter, he made an impact on every single play. And it wasn't always in the box score, but what Coach Patricia and that defense had him doing, he was doing at a high level, whether it was spying, setting an edge, the things that don't look great in the box score but are really important for the next level, he does them at a high level. So I think that with Reese, to me, he's the best player in the draft, and I think a guy that, like, I'm not going to say he's Micah Parsons, but you can use him like Micah Parsons and feel like you're getting a almost similar impact.
So you mentioned Matt Patricia, defense coordinator for Ohio State, was defense coordinator for the Patriots, was a head coach. Did you notice him doing different things that would translate to this league with his defense?
Yeah, for sure. He brought pro-style concepts to what he was doing. And you saw that most when you studied Caleb Downs at safety because of all the disguises that they would do, the different ways, because the way Caleb Downs is playing, he's reading, and if it's a run, okay, well, he's doing this. If it's a pass, well, then he has to, everything changes, and he's going to do this, and he has to communicate all of that. And so there's a lot of, and it's part of the reason why you love Caleb Downs is how smart he is and the way that he's going to fit into an NFL system from day one and be, you have no questions about him handling the playbook. And look, Caleb Downs had 3 different defensive coordinators in his 3 years, 1 at Alabama and then 2 at Ohio State. So, yeah, you definitely saw that with Patricia in the way. Let's be honest, he had an embarrassment of riches of talent on the defense side of the ball. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caden McDonald's a monster at nose tackle. The secondary was a pretty good group. So, yeah, it's the Ohio State defense was by far my favorite group to study this past fall.
All right, last question I'll ask you. If you were the Browns, could you see them trading back from 6 a little bit, getting another pick either in the first round? Is this draft deep enough later in the first round that you could come away with some impact players?
I'm sure they'd love to do that. I just don't think that anybody's calling. That's the thing. A lot of teams, I think, are going to be hoping that phone starts buzzing and they got a trade offer to consider. I just don't think unless someone falls in love with Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back, or something like that, I have a hard time seeing teams giving up those valuable day 2 picks to go up and get a player. So I think they're going to, more likely than not, they're going to stick and pick at 6, and they have to be ready to do that.
Dane Brugler, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for making some time.
Yeah, thank you.
Dane Brugler, author of The Beast Draft Guide. He is one of the best draft analysts. You can check out his work with The Athletic. As always, great stuff. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.